Hoërskool Overvaal Afrikaans language policy matter end up in court? Should school governing bodies continue to have a say on school language policies? Is it constitutional to deny a learner access to education on the basis of language? And shouldn't blacks protect their languages in the same manner as the Afrikaanse taal, cultuur, kennis en creativiteit? What time is it? It's question time. Khotsong, Mraro Grula. My name is Paul Seydou. In a visit to Hoërskool Overvaal this week, Education Minister Njimutsecha said the department had not anticipated that the issues at the school would spiral out of control. The chaos resulted from the school refusing to accept 55 English-speaking pupils due to lack of capacity. The High Court in Pretoria ruled in favor of the school. The matter is similar to Crane and Montana High Schools in Pretoria. In 2016, the two schools were instructed by the Department of Education to accommodate more English-speaking learners. Gauteng Education MEC Panyazo Lusifi says, and I quote, "The philosophy of racial division and cultural and language individualism remain entrenched in our education system. That is why this Hoërskool Overvaal's legal victory in keeping out 55 grade 8 English learners from the African school in Vereeniging was a major setback for transformation and the struggle for a non-racial society," close quote. We are live, and please do give us a call. 089-110-4210 is the number to dial if you're outside the borders, plus 2789-110-4210, and our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24, and we're also available. You can live stream us rather on our Facebook page, SABC News Online, and our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/SABC Digital News. My guest today is Dr. Titus. He's the Executive Director of the Afrikaanse Taal en Kultuurvereniging, and Steve Mabona, spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department. Well, welcome you gentlemen. Steve, it's been a roller coaster of January, I can imagine. We appreciate you making time to talk to us. Just give us the latest. What's happening in Vereeniging, in the Vaal?
Thanks very much, Paul. I think what is happening there now, we have thought for a peaceful moment where, as the minister has already indicated, that we need a space where learners will be in a position to can be left alone to be taught, and educators must continue to teach. But understandably so, there's groupings that they want to continue with the marches and go to the school. We are saying our message is very clear that the disruptions at schools are dire, and we are calling upon members of the public in all the areas, because it's not only at that school where we have disruptions. We have Noordgesig, which we met with the parents yesterday. We agreed that they're going to leave the school, and the school is operational today. We are fine. There's other schools where people are marching for different reasons. But we are saying if you rush into disrupting the schooling, then we need to have your recovery plan. We need to make sure that we go back. So it becomes difficult for us as a Department of Education to come back. Your curriculum time that you might have lost there, it becomes difficult to recover. So we discourage any disruption. And we said those that are willing to go with us, when we go through the appeal, they are welcome to join us. We will share information on the latest developments, and we just encourage them not to go to the school or different schools to disrupt, schooling there.
Okay.
As a matter of principle, we have announced that we will challenge the court judgment, because we felt that we were shortchanged, in a way.
Okay. But at the center of all this is Afrikaans. Yes, it is part of the official languages, but it would appear, it's not being viewed as such?
Look, their contention was capacity. But then when you argue capacity, then you end up having language, being introduced as an issue again. But we are saying we have made inroads in some of the Hoërskool, Afrikaans school, we have made inroads. I mean, we have an example in Randfontein.
Yeah.
Randfontein, we have 2 schools that, after consulting with them, they saw a need that, look, the department has a point. Demographics are changing. There's no area where you'll find African-speaking people, residing on their own. That's our bone of contention. Okay. So that necessitates that your English learners will be, seeking access of that African school. So why don't you go parallel? And we are not saying go dual or, take English. We are saying let's go parallel. We'll still have your Africans, they're being taught, and you'll have English being taught at the school. But we know that, with time, you will have probably more English learners than Africans. And we are not saying abolish the language. We have not said that. We are saying all languages must be respected the same. All languages, there's no language that must be paramount here. All languages are the same, and the respect must be the same. So, yeah, that's our
Is it your institution's concern or fear that Afrikaans may be phased out?
Not at all. Our institution is very clear that Afrikaans is a language spoken across the spectrum of South Africa.
Yeah.
So Afrikaans is a language that's spoken in its diversity, and our organization focuses very much on that diversity of Afrikaans. It is a language that started with the Khoi. It's a language that started with the Malay slaves. It's a language that was influenced by a range of people in this country. If you look at the 2011 census statistics, then you'll find that 50% of Afrikaans mother tongue speakers are colored people, 40% are white people, 9% are African people. 602,000 of African people said in the census statistics, Afrikaans is my mother tongue. 1% Indian people saying Afrikaans is my mother tongue. So we are saying we cannot follow a route with Afrikaans that is outdated. We really need to reflect not only that diversity, but also the richness of it.
Okay. Let's go to our lines. Tandika, you're calling us from around Johannesburg. Welcome.
Hi, Mpo.
Hi.
You know what? South Africa had actually had a problem when they went in government with the oppressors. So the problem started there. You cannot go into government with people that oppressed you, and they use the very same language, Afrikaans, to oppress the people. In 1976, hundreds of youth were killed while they were fighting to actually get recognition of their own African languages. And after 20 years of democracy plus, we're still fighting the very same problem. That is so not cool. And why do we have so many organizations actually fighting for Afrikaans? While I've never heard of even one organization that fights for Setswana or Tonga, for an example.
But is that not your problem as black people?
No, the problem is that we were oppressed and we don't have the resources. If you give me the resources today, tomorrow I am going to open my own organization that's going to fight for African languages. We do not have the resources because of the apartheid. And now they are perpetuating the whole thing with excluding the children at the schools. I think people should look at the judgment, say Free State versus AfriForum and Solidarity, I think. There, Chief Justice Mogoeng has stated very clearly the language policy of Free State is 100% correct. It goes with the Constitution and it goes with the transformation that the department is trying to achieve. It's actually going to the freedom. Because we want to achieve this freedom that people are talking about. If our kids are still excluded in some schools, like Hoërskool there are different war schools actually that have excluded the students. And this is not the first one, you know.
Yes. Okay. Thandeka, thank you very much. Thandeka, they're calling us from Johannesburg. Well, I guess you had her point, and I suppose that's a growing narrative amongst a lot of people that this is not just a language matter; it's a matter of perpetuation of the subjugation of the African people.
Not at all. At this school in particular, Overvaal, they are African students.
Oh, what is it? Is it what?
Overvaal.
Oh, I'm saying Overvaal.
Well, it's
okay.
a dynamic language.
Okay.
They are African students, so it's not a matter of just falling into all these
who are learning in
stereotypes.
Afrikaans.
Well, learning in Afrikaans.
Is it?
There's one case in this court case, and it was not by Mogoeng. This case was by Judge Prinsloo. Judge Prinsloo gave a decision in this case.
Yeah.
And he referred to an exhibit in that court case of an African girl by the name of Pupapi, is her surname. And she was refused access by the department to go to that school. Her father had to appeal for her to get into that school. And eventually she was allowed in there because her father wanted her there. So we must be very careful with all these stereotypes. Even the issue of is it now Afrikaans or is it now capacity? And we must wait for the court judgment processes to take its course. And I don't brief for anybody in this, but when I read the court judgment, the issue of the department, and Mr. Mabona can tell us much more about that, have shown so many defects in terms of how they have exercised their responsibility. You don't come to a school principal on the 5th or on the 4th of December to say that you must now in January admit so many pupils. You don't come in then on the 5th, the day after that, give them instructions. There were processes that were not followed, and that's what the court found. And it's probably on that basis that they will appeal now. But they must take responsibility as well.
Or is that where the department got it wrong?
That's what the judge said, yeah.
Look, can say a lot about the judgment. What we said is that this information that was not utilized. I mean, we understand that there was a capacity issue. It was contested. Remember, we were supposed to appear. They were supposed to appear with the fellow respondents. You know, there's 2 schools there which were cited with us. In the morning, we're told that we're going to have a postponement because all of a sudden there's 2 affidavits which came at night. Now saying, no, actually we have space which we can assist Overvaal to actually accommodate these learners. Then we said the postponement continued. Then we said, okay, it's fine. They gave us a new date. We then had to go back to the fellow respondent, which is it's our schools, it's public ordinary schools. We said, now, principals, we hear at court that there's this new evidence that you have deposed, that you are saying you have capacity. But according to what we have in our records, you don't have capacity. I mean, to an extent that some of your laboratories were demolished and converted into classes. And some are prefabs
yes,
that you have utilized. So you have about 1,500 learners. The school that has 620, and they have converted classes into laboratories. There are about 14 laboratories there. So the other child deserves a laboratory, and meanwhile the other does not deserve a laboratory.
Okay, hold it. Let's go to Msani. Msani, you are in Randfontein?
Yes, I am in Randfontein.
Welcome.
That's right. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
That's right. I belong to the old generation.
Okay.
Right. I'll go to 1962, 1961, because this Afrikaans is actually being used as a tool, really, to maintain the Afrikaner superiority. I'll go to 61 and 60. When we ask questions as young people, when they were emphasizing Afrikaans right through,
yes,
we said, amongst you white people, there were Portuguese. There were all these other nations, Italians and so on. Why don't you, if you talk about, people's language, why don't you allow them to be prominent like you people? The answers were, no. Those were foreign languages, and we are not going to allow we are Afrikaners, we belong here. And the problem was with Afrikaans. We blacks that time had to make from our language switch over to a neutral language, which is English. They've never recognized that. We have our languages, but for the sake of courtesy and other things, we had to leave our languages to go to a neutral language, which we thought they will also meet us halfway by going to the neutral language. But they were the only ones who were stuck on Afrikaans is the main language. In other words, it was a time when every single person was supposed to speak Afrikaans.
Yes.
We are going back to the same situation now with this small group where Afrikaans is used really as a supreme language as far as we are concerned.
Okay.
I even vowed that time, I'm 86 now, actually for 87, in the 60s, that I will never speak Afrikaans. Okay, the old men came to compromise. I said, I will not speak Afrikaans, where we were forced to the bus stop and all those things. It was a language was the problem.
Okay.
They are bringing it back again to the younger generation. This younger generation never believed in 94 up to now. As I see these young men, they thought it was really going to be a multiracial.
Okay, Dadimsan, unfortunately, we have to go ahead. Right now, we're taking a quick break. When we return to continue our discussion, do give us a call, 089-110-4210. We shall return shortly.
If you ask this pretentious mixologist what is needed to make the ultimate cocktail, she'd say a thorough knowledge of science. Ooh, right in the face. Yes. If you asked us, we'd say it's less about science.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today, Dr. Danny Titus, is from the Afrikaanse Taal en Kultuurvereniging. Steve Mabona is from the Department of Education here in Gauteng. Now, you're hearing our callers. They're saying, no. We smell a rat here.
Well, that's fine. That's an indication where we are in this country. To trace everything back to 1961 is a little bit far. So much has happened since then. In 1961, many Afrikaans speakers were oppressed in Afrikaans as well. My parents, my grandparents were oppressed in Afrikaans as well, speaking Afrikaans. That is the complexity of South Africa. But we came out of it. We realize now in the Afrikaans landscape that we are missing on the powerful histories of Afrikaans.
But would you support, I'm sorry to interject, would you support the department in their bid to say African schools allow other languages as well?
I certainly support the department. I support Parliament. Parliament came with a law in 2012 called the Use of Official Languages Act, asking of departments, national and provincial, to start implementing language policies, selecting 3 official languages. A whole process was outlined. They just didn't care to implement that. little bits by little bits. The Department of Arts and Culture has been trying to do that. So coming to support, I support the broad processes of transformation.
Okay.
But I do not support not telling the truth. Because I feel that it was wrong for the MEC to took that particular line of discrimination where there were so many fingers pointed at his own department, at their incapacities, by a court of law. And if you look at the demonstrations afterwards, we should have shown people, leadership, that what they were involved in was contempt of law, contempt of court.
In 2007, in Emelo, approximately 113 English-speaking learners could not be accommodated. And the parents fought it, and government intervened. They actually stripped the HOD stripped the school governing body of their powers to decide on this. We can't accommodate you on the basis of 1, 2, 3, and made sure that those kids were accommodated. Why are you not using your powers if you've got them?
No, look, we can't impose. What we are saying, the term of that SGP is coming to an end now in March. So the new SGP, after appointment or after being elected, they must, within 90 days, submit their language policy of that school as well.
But,
so we will be in a position to interact with them and say, but there's a demand in your area. So there's no way that you can tell us about capacity, meanwhile there's a demand, and there's evidence that you actually were selective in your placement of learners in that school.
Hold it. Tsepo, very quickly, you are in Pretoria. Welcome.
How are you, sir?
I'm well.
Good. I would like to ask one question or two. First thing is it illegal to not to go, what can I say, not to discriminate or to discourage whenever the judge is saying? Because Judge Prince Blue must be fired. He didn't even take this case completely, but he did according to his favor of Afrikaans. If you are in high school, you go to high school, there are certain classes which take this language. If the train comes, it's not your language, you go out, then other people come in. Why is this a complicated thing for Africans and so forth? It must be banned for all.
Okay, Tsepo, thanks very much. Well, he doesn't agree with the judge.
I didn't follow his argument really.
Well, he's saying, why are you well, he's basically supporting the other callers, because he says in other instances classes would be split. When it's not your class, you go out, and then once they are done, you come back. But I'm not so sure your mandate is to protect the Afrikaans language and culture and all that. I'm not so sure if you would...
No, our mandate is to also acknowledge what schools have done in terms of moving towards transformation. Mr. Mabona has indicated schools in Randfontein. There are other schools in Overvaal themselves who are doing that. So this is not a segment or a situation where everything is cast in stone.
So what do you not want? Maybe let's get that clear.
What I do not want people walking around saying there must be a war on Afrikaans. I do not want people to say that mother tongue instruction is not important. I do not want people not to acknowledge multilingualism in South Africa, and that we are part of a transformative society. We are building a new society, and we must acknowledge the value of our languages, of our histories, of our diversity.
All right.
We cannot follow this lawlessness that we see without leadership to address that.
Let me give you your closing thoughts, perhaps in response to that.
No, he agrees that we need to go parallel. We need to go parallel medium, which is going to assist us, because we need to tap into that space. We can't allow people who are staying in a street or 500 meters away from the school, they cannot access it because it's Afrikaans single medium. It can't be. So as a matter of principle, we just need to be clear on that one, that there's no way we'll have a single medium for Afrikaans school only in this country. We are diversified, we live together. Our children should be in a position to
not even in Overvaal.
No, not even in Overvaal. We are still going back there.
All right. Well, there you had it. Overvaal, they are coming. That was question time. Have a thought.